Turn the lights on for the Tyler Bright and Early podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Bright, PBJ Productions' official flagship podcast for all things college football centered. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on TikTok, Instagram, and X. You can also watch and listen to full episodes on Spotify and YouTube. It's week 7 of the college football season. We had a pretty good week 6. A lot of great games that happened. Of course, the rivalry game against the Noles and the Canes, and the Canes came out with the victory, kind of cementing them in that top 3 spot. They got a little bit more votes to be the number 1 team in all of the land of college football, but still competing with Ohio State and Oregon, of course. But the Canes, really solid win. Looked a little bit more dominant than the record shows. But I think FSU is still right there. You know, they're kind of out of it in the ACC, but they're still going to be a great team. Maybe even try to fight for a playoff spot. I ultimately don't think they'll get there, but nonetheless, still a competitive game. Also, how about Florida beating Texas? Billy Napier's standing strong once again. You know, he just plays well when he's on the hot seat, I guess. You know, getting a pretty solid win. A win, honestly, that they needed, especially for DJ Lagway playing his best game of the season. And also Wilson having over 100 yards receiving, just dogging out there for the Gators. And on the other side for Texas, you got a lot of trouble to figure out. And everyone's to blame on that, especially Arch Manning. Arch Manning is just not living up to expectations. And I know it's really hard to when you are a player of that caliber. You know, you have the Manning name across the back of your jersey. It's tough. It's tough. Don't get me wrong. But you are still Texas. And it's a tough pill to swallow. It's a tough pill to swallow. That's in an SEC that is so competitive. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough coming back from that. Texas A&M handling business against Mississippi State. Alabama getting the win against Vanderbilt. I felt like that was pretty obvious, but Vanderbilt did get the win last season, but it's just a different level. Alabama's on a different level. You know, besides that one game against FSU, Alabama has looked dominant this season, and they're showing why. And then, of course, how about UCLA getting their first win of the season under interim head coach Tim Skipper, and Jerry Neuheisel, of course, the son of Rick Neuheisel, getting the win. He gets carried off of the field just like when he did when he was a player 10 years ago. And James Franklin, yikes, James Franklin. This is probably James Franklin's worst win, or win. He didn't win. Worst loss since he's been there at Penn State, and he's been at Penn State for a while. That's tough. And I really thought this really seemed like it was going to be Penn State's year. It was either boom or championship or bust. And I don't think they're going to get there. You know, you obviously, yes, you lost to a competitive Oregon team and a bad loss against UCLA, but we've seen teams come back from worse before to make the playoff. Now, will they make the playoff at the end of the day? I'm not sure. You know, I don't know how you struggle against UCLA. I guess you just might have had a bad week of practice, just wasn't ready for this game. You were too emotionally drained from the close loss against Oregon in overtime, but a loss is a loss. So really unfortunate for them. Another game that happened, of course, Louisville getting their first loss of the season against the Virginia Cavaliers, and pretty unfortunate. Louisville was pretty competitive in that game, but just turnovers cost them, and Miller Moss did not have a great game. Probably the worst game Miller Moss had against Louisville, and that's concerning. This team's going to ride or die by Miller Moss's play, and unfortunately they lost because of his play there, and just a really bad interception, a couple of turnovers, Isaac Brown fumble that got returned all the way back for a touchdown, a pick 6 for Virginia, just kept them in this game and then got them the win in overtime. I also personally didn't love the call to kick a field goal in overtime. I would have liked to gone for the first down and then try to go for the touchdown, but it is what it is. A loss there, kind of costly. They're on a bye week this week before they gear up for their tough matchup Friday night against the Miami Hurricanes, and that one's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough, but we've seen Louisville be giant killers before. We've seen them get these big upsets, so we'll see how they do next week. But yeah, so that's kind of what happened last week in week 6 for college football. Now, let's take a look at my college football playoff predictions. You know, we do quarterly predictions. Last time we did it, I think it was about week 3. And I didn't, looking back at it, it's probably not the best. I had Louisville in the playoff, and that's obviously not going to happen. But, one could dream. But yeah, it's going to be a tough slate for them. But anyway, let's take a look at this week. So at number 1, I have Ohio State. Ohio State looks like the most dominant team in the country. Julian Sayin looks pretty good, and There's just no reason why I think this Ohio State team, based on what we've seen so far this season, that they're going to lose a game this year. I mean, I just don't think they're going to do it. I just don't think they're going to lose a game this year. You just look at it, just the way that they're playing. They have the best wide receiver in the country, and their schedule is at number 17 Illinois, probably their toughest test of the season. At Wisconsin, they do play Penn State. At Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, and at Michigan. So obviously the 3 games that stick out is at Illinois, Penn State, and at Michigan. Michigan is 4-1, mind you, and Penn State did play close against Oregon. So you can't completely disregard Penn State. But even if they do lose like one game, if it is to Illinois, Penn State, and Michigan, I feel like if you lose to Penn State and Michigan, that's going to be still a little bit tough, because that's 2 Big Ten losses. But, anything can happen. But even then, I still feel like Ohio State can still find their way into the playoff just because of brand recognition. And we have to be honest, that is a factor when it comes to college football playoff rankings. The first official college football playoff rankings, I think, are coming around Halloween or maybe even into early November, is when we'll finally get the first look at the college football playoff committee's rankings of the college football playoff. So we'll have to see when it gets there. Okay, at number 2, I got Oregon. Oregon looks like a top 3 team in the country as well. They got the big win against Penn State. They're undefeated. And if you look at their schedule, it doesn't look like they're going to lose any game anytime soon as well. So it's just, Dante Moore is looking like one of the top quarterbacks in the country. I think he's top 3 for sure. Alongside Mendoza for Indiana, which we'll talk about more in a bit. Oregon they just look like that team. They were that team last year also, where they went all the way in the Big Ten. They beat Ohio State. They won the Big Ten championship and then got drilled in the playoffs. So Dan Lanning's doing a fantastic job at Oregon, and you have to commend him for that. Take a look at the schedule. Indiana at Rutgers, Wisconsin at Iowa, Minnesota, USC at Washington. I mean, it's just this weekend against Indiana. That's pretty much it. It's pretty much it for week 7 of the college football season for Oregon. So that's kind of how I feel on that. They're number 2. At number 3, I got the Miami Hurricanes. I really like what Miami's doing so far. They look really good. Tony at the receiver position looks really great. He looks like a stud out there. Carson Beck is looking like a top 3 quarterback in all of college football. And you got to commend him for that. He's once he broke up with the Cavender twin. Once he broke up with the Cavender twin, he just went on his renaissance. He just went on he's just dominating. He's just dominating, standing on business. And Mario Cristobal, he's not having as much game managing kind of fouls, if you will. And I think that's because he has a manager who's helping him on the sideline manage games. And if you need one, I guess you might as well invest in one. But yeah, Miami is looking really good. I really like how they look. And with the ACC. The ACC is just wild this year. Everyone's going to beat up on each other, but I think Miami will make its way over to Charlotte. So got the Canes. At number 4, I got the champion of the Big 12. It's Texas Tech. Who would have thought Texas Tech would look this good? I didn't think they were going to look this good. I thought they would. I thought they were going to be pretty good if I remember what my prediction was. I can't really remember off the top of my head, but Texas Tech. Yeah, I think you're number 4. I think you're number 4. I think you're going to win the Big 12. Excuse me. I think you're going to win the Big 12. And I just kind of feel like I like what they're doing. They're dominating. And if you look at the rest of their schedule, maybe there's a couple hiccups here and there. But the Red Raiders, Joey McGuire, doing a great job. And I honestly feel like I think they're going to win the Big 12. I don't really know much about this team. I need to do a little bit more digging before I can finally do a final predictions when we get into November. Let's see, because the Big 12, I mean, you also have Cincinnati in there. Iowa State, they lost, but you have Cincinnati. Can't forget about Arizona State. There's a couple other teams in there that could kind of spoil the parade for the Red Raiders. So we'll see how they do. We'll see how they do down the stretch. Now we're going into the at-large bids for, except for one, obviously, the group of 5, but the at-large bids for the college football playoff. At number 5, got Alabama. Their only losses against Florida State. And just based on how they're playing, their offense looks good. Ty Simpson looks like a different quarterback since that game. I like Alabama. I really like how Alabama is this year. And I think they're going to make their way to Atlanta. I think, yeah, you're not in the top 4, but I think if you just handle your business, if you just go all the way to the SEC title game, I think they're going to win it. I think that right now they're my favorite for the SEC. So that's number 5. At number 6, I got the Georgia Bulldogs. And yeah, they lost to Alabama, but I kind of feel like they're the number 2 team right now. Although this is not your same Georgia team. They're not looking as good as they were on the defensive front. They're not getting as much pressure as they usually do for a Kirby Smart team. Also, Gunnar Stockton is who he is. He's not going to win you a game, but he won't. Hopefully he doesn't lose you a game. He's just the game manager. That's what he is. And honestly, that's what Kirby Smart likes. He likes game managers at the quarterback position, but he's just not going to get you over that top, I feel like, unfortunately, for the Dogs. But you're still number 2. Still got you at number 2 in the SEC, but number 6 in the college football playoff. Number 7, I still got Ole Miss. Trinidad Chambliss, I like him. He's just got that flash, and I just love his story coming from Ferris State. Also, Lane Kiffin, I think he's doing an exceptional job. He's kind of found a home now with the Rebels, and I just think they're going to make the playoffs just based on the rest of their schedule. They got the big win. Against LSU, and I think that just kind of put them a spot in the SEC. But unfortunately, I think they are going to lose some games here and there down the stretch, which is why I don't think they're going to make it to Atlanta, or maybe they do make it to Atlanta and lose to an Alabama. And that's kind of what pushes Georgia up in the seeding. I don't know. It gets a little bit nifty here and there. You can kind of move. I can kind of move a couple of the parts here. Georgia and Ole Miss are kind of like you can flip either one, but I think Georgia might beat them down the stretch. So that's why I got Georgia ahead of them right now. But at number 8, got the Indiana Hoosiers. I mean, Kurt Signetti's just doing a fantastic job. You know, they had a lot of more different players this year. It wasn't just all of the JMU transfers. It wasn't just all transfers. They actually had some new chemistry that they had to work with. And so far, so good for this team. So far, so good. And one of the reasons that I think they're good is Mendoza, because Mendoza, and also you dropped like a 50-60 burger against Illinois. And Illinois is a great team, although they had a couple injuries in the defense in the secondary. So that's kind of why they were able to score as many points as they were. But Indiana's schedule is just a breeze down the stretch, and I would be shocked if they didn't make the playoff, because like they go undefeated, but they still might be the 8th seed, to be honest with you. But nonetheless, I still think you're going to make the playoff. At number 9, I got the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Yes, I got Georgia Tech. I like Georgia Tech this year. They got some big wins down to the wire. I feel like that's going to be the story for this Yellow Jacket team. You're gonna have these gritty wins. You're gonna put teams in overtime. And Brent Key, I like what he does. He's a Georgia Tech alum. Haynes King, I like what he is at the quarterback position. I like what they're able to do. I think they're gonna make their way to Charlotte based on how things are looking as of right now. I don't like Virginia. I like Virginia. They got the overtime win. They're also kind of a gritty team too. Their past 2 games have been in overtime, but they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose another game. They got extremely lucky with the turnovers against Louisville. I think they're going to lose a game down the stretch. I don't think they're going to make it to Charlotte. I think it's going to be Georgia Tech. So Georgia Tech at number 9. At number 10, I got Oklahoma. And I'm not super confident on this one because I don't know the status of John Mateer. But I like what Oklahoma looks like right now. I like what they're going to do. I think they could even beat Texas, Red River, because this is Red River week. Spoiler alert. We'll take a look at that. I think Oklahoma's going to win. I think Oklahoma's going to win in the Red River rivalry game, and I'm a little bit surprised because I didn't think they were going to be as good as they are, but they've got the wins early in the season to kind of like stand on business and just kind of do what they can. And the SEC, the top of the SEC the top of the SEC is the best right now in all of the conferences. Of course, you got Ohio State and Oregon in the Big Ten, but like the top upper echelon of the SEC is just, you can have a lot of good SEC teams in here. And I got Oklahoma at number 10. At number 11, I got Tennessee. Tennessee, another SEC team. Now, I think the Vols, even though they lost to Georgia, they could still do some damage. It's going to be a lot harder. And I don't think you're going to do much in the playoff, but, you know, all you need to do is beat an Alabama or beat an Oklahoma, and I think they have the ability to. They can beat one of those 2. But I still got you in the playoff because look, if you look at the rest of the schedule, I got it up here right now. Arkansas, at Alabama, at Kentucky, Oklahoma, New Mexico State, at Florida, and Vanderbilt. I think that's pretty handled. I think you'll lose one of the Alabama and Oklahoma games, but if you go 2 losses and if you finish 10-2, that's good enough to make the playoff, especially in the SEC. So we got Tennessee at 11, and then at number 12 as our group of 5 school, I got the Bulls of USF. They look really good right now. Got the win over Florida, which Florida's kind of a weird team right now. I don't know what to think of the Gators right now, even though they just upset Texas. USF looks really good. Maybe you can get UNLV from the Mountain West, but I got the Bulls. I think Alex Golish, there's just so much talent on this team for a group of 5 school. They're going to, and the American, I feel like the winner of the American is probably going to get in between USF and Tulane. But you can't, UNLV is undefeated with Dan Mullen, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. But that's my college football playoff quarterly prediction for this week. Now, we got to take a look at week 7 for the college football week 7 as I pull it up. Take a look at the games that we got coming up this week. So we got speaking of South Florida, they take on North Texas. I'm going to go with South Florida. North Texas, although kind of a sneaky team here and there, like what they're doing offensively, I got the Bulls. Florida State takes on Pitt at noon this weekend. Florida State, I like Florida State a lot better. Alabama against Missouri. That's an interesting matchup because Missouri, they're undefeated are they undefeated? I'm sorry, I have to take a look. I feel like they've lost a game at least once. I feel like they have. Oh no, they're undefeated at 5-0. But I will say they also have like 8. They have like 8 games at home. I do remember that. No one's really talking about Missouri. And I think that's just because they're waiting for their first big test against Alabama this weekend. I got Alabama. I don't feel like Missouri. I feel like when you have all these, it's tough when you have all of these games at home early on in the season. So once you finally first face your real test or go on the road, it's tough because I feel like it doesn't set you up for later in the season because you played all these games at home and then you have to play all these games on the road. It's just tough. It's tough. I got Alabama. I think they're going to take the win. Then after that, we got Ohio State against Illinois. Kind of talked about that a little bit. I got Ohio State. I like Illinois, but they got some injuries in the secondary. It's not going to be good enough against an Ohio State team that's number 1 in the country right now. Ole Miss against Washington State. Got Ole Miss. I'm not going much into that one. Notre Dame at NC State. Now, Notre Dame, I thought about putting them in my playoff, but they don't have a quality win. There's no quality win on their schedule that, maybe you get a win against USC, but I feel like in order for you to make the playoff, you need to dominate. I'm sorry. And based on what we've seen from Notre Dame this season, what makes you think that they won't lose another game this year? Kind of a thought to think about, but they will win against NC State. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Notre Dame. You're not making the playoff. Sorry, Irish fans. Iowa State against Colorado. I think Iowa State will bounce back. I think they'll get the win over Colorado. Colorado, it's tough. Deion Sanders, is he having health issues? Is he going to stay around after this year with the Buffaloes? Who knows? Who knows with Deion? I certainly don't know. Georgia Tech against Virginia Tech, 3:30 this Saturday. I got Georgia Tech. Virginia Tech has an interim head coach. It's going to be a tough one this Saturday. Red River, obviously, talked about that already. Oklahoma's going to win over Texas. Indiana against Oregon. That's a great game. I think that's a really good game. I got Oregon, but I think Indiana can put up a fight. I think the main advantage is that Oregon has them at home. And I think this is a battle of 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks in all of college football. Mendoza versus Moore. Who's going to win the matchup? We'll see. We shall see. Arkansas takes on Tennessee. Tennessee's going to win that one. Texas A&M takes on Florida. That could be a little bit of a battle. Could Florida do it 2 weeks in a row? We saw it at the end of last year. We saw them go out and win those games down the stretch. Is DJ Lagway out of that fall training camp mode? I think he is. I still got A&M. But Michigan against USC. That's another good one. You got 2 teams that are at 4-1, both teams that didn't make my college football playoff prediction. And my reasoning is I think Michigan's going to lose a couple games. I do think Michigan's going to win this one against USC. USC, Lincoln Riley, I feel like their defenses never stand up. They never stand up. They just don't. It's a Lincoln Riley team. They just never do well. Their offenses are great, and their quarterbacks never take a snap under center. Michigan with the win. Georgia takes on Auburn. I got Georgia. It's kind of funny. One of my roommate was talking about how on like a Reddit or like a forum or a thread of whatever, saw that Auburn should fire Hugh Freeze and hire Scott Satterfield from Cincinnati. You know, as a Louisville alum, I think you should do that. Auburn, fire Hugh Freeze and hire Scott Satterfield and see how he does, because he's a winner everywhere he goes. I mean, if you consider 7 or 8 wins a winner, you know, go for it. Go hire him. It just means more in the SEC, Scott. Have fun at Auburn. Speaking of Cincinnati, I like Cincinnati too. I think they might even go to the Big 12 championship, but they're not my favorite coming out of the Big 12. LSU takes on South Carolina. I got LSU. I think South Carolina is not really as good as people were saying in the preseason. I do like Lenora Sellers, but I'm just not rolling with them. And then the game I'm going to this weekend, I'm heading back up to Michigan, and I'm seeing Michigan State take on UCLA. Now, can UCLA come back after this emotional victory? Your first win of the season. Winless team beats a top 10 team in Penn State. Can they handle it against the Spartans at noon in East Lansing? I got Sparty. I don't think UCLA's that good, and I think that might be their only win of the season. But hey, you got it against Penn State, anyways. But one last thing I'll talk about, kind of getting out of the world of college football. UFL, the Spring Football League, just added, or I guess not added, but has 3 new teams coming after kind of reshuffling the map. One of those is coming to the Derby City, the Louisville Kings. How about that? Love the logo, love the name, named after King Louis. And Louisville, just a great sports city. They're going to be playing at Lynn Family Stadium, where the USL and the women's soccer team play, with Louisville City FC and Louisville Racing. And I think it's great. I was really pushing for this. I'm glad that it finally got finalized. And, you know, I think it's going to be great. You're going to have some U of L players. You're going to have some former UK players, you know, and they were smart picking the green color, not going red or blue, because there is a lot of Cat fans in the Derby City, unfortunately. No, it's going to be fun. I definitely want to get involved and see what I can do, see if I can get any coverage. You know, I would love to talk about this team more. And I love spring football. I think with the ever-changing landscape of college football, it's becoming harder to develop players, as Mike Repole was talking about in the press conference. It's great. I think it's another avenue to watch some more football, and I'm all for that. So, yeah, but that's going to do it for today's episode of the Tyler Bright and Early Podcast. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on TikTok, Instagram, and X. You can watch and listen to full episodes on Spotify and YouTube. PBJ Productions, official flagship podcast for all things college football centered.